Importance of self-awareness in good communication. So before we can talk about how to be collegial and civil in our workplace communications, we must first understand what it means to be collegial and what it means to be civil. Can someone share with me what comes to your mind when you think of being collegial? And it doesn't have to be a dressed up response. I just want to know what's your initial response when you hear the word collegial. Okay, so you think cooperative. Awesome, that's a great response. Someone else, what do you think when you hear the word civil? What comes to your mind? Nothing dressed up needed. Okay, you think decent, courteous. Okay, those are all great responses. So when we think about being collegial and civil in our workplace communications, those are normally interactions and exchanges, whether they are written or verbal, that promote mutual meaning, purpose, or a common purpose, meaning, or objective. Those interactions are typically mutually respectful, courteous, cooperative, uncompetitive, and generally polite in tone. The lack of respectful conversation or communication can result in conflict in the workplace. Conflict usually occurs when one person is invested only in their side of the discussion. You may know someone like this. They defend their position to its death. They have no regard for even being open to hearing someone else's point of view. This is a very dangerous place to be, because when you are not open to understanding another person's perspective, you can't fully understand your own. Also, you fail to leave room for any learning new information. And that's necessary if you are to fully understand the entire argument. Conflict can also be the cause or the result of poor communication. The primary reason for conflict in the workplace, however, is that we're all different. The way that we see, perceive, understand the same information and or situation is different. This is true because our rearing is different. Our personal and professional relationships are different. Our race and our culture, they're all very different. And when you combine these things and you bring them into the workplace, you are bound to have conflict. Though we may all work for the same organization, we all have a different role in that organization. And so our needs and our desires and our approaches, our perceptions, our ideas, our attitudes, and the way that we go about handling or achieving our part of the organization's mission will differ. And so that might just create some conflict. Also, our responses to stress, to pressure, and deadlines are also different. I'll ask you guys to share with me some of the ways that you respond to stress or pressure or deadlines. I'll go first. So my career has pretty much oriented me to responding to deadlines. So I'm not so stressed when I have a deadline that I have to respond to, but I can't honestly say that I am free of stress. There is some level of stress there, but I'm naturally oriented to responding to deadlines. So here's how I respond to stress inside the workplace. I love nature, so I may take my lunch out in my car. I also get a 30-minute wellness break, so I'll go for a walk with my colleagues. That helps tremendously in relieving my stress when I'm at work. The same applies for me when I'm outside of the workplace. I may take my dog to a dog park. Again, out in nature. Or I may decide to go have lunch, dinner, or breakfast at one of my favorite establishments here in Atlanta. And I'll do that with maybe family members and or friends. So those are just some of the ways that I relieve stress in and outside of the workplace. What about you? Okay, I heard one person say that they love to go shopping. That's great. Most women do love to shop. That's definitely one way to relieve stress, especially when you're spending somebody else's money, right? That makes it even more enjoyable, okay? All right, let's move right along. All right, so conflict gets a bad rap, but it doesn't have to. Conflict is very normal. You should expect it. It's natural. And when it's managed well, it can also be healthy. So how do we manage conflict? We anticipate it. Basically, just expect it. It's going to happen simply because you have at least two different people present. And since you expect it, you can plan for it. And when it happens, you can address it directly and assertively. Let's take a look at some stages of conflict. The first stage is difference. That can be achieved by as easily as two different people showing up in the workplace. The next stage is disagreement. That's achieved by two people having a different perspective on an issue. And the next stage is derision. This is when you begin to attack the person. Once you begin to attack the person, that conflict is escalated to contempt. Once you have contempt in the workplace, that is something that needs to be addressed immediately. Don't let it languish. Now, we're going to switch gears here just a little bit. I won't ask you by show of hands who thinks that they are emotionally intelligent. I'll just let you silently gauge your own emotional intelligence as we go through this information. But I will tell you that respectful communications require a high level of emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman is the author of a book entitled Emotional Intelligence, Why It Might Matter More Than IQ. In that book, he writes about the 5 domains of emotional intelligence. And I've given you all a handout there that addresses each of these domains in greater detail. Today, I'll just summarize those domains for you and what each of them means, okay? So the first one is knowing your emotions. All this simply means is that you must be self-aware. You must be able to identify your own moods, emotions, and drives, and how they impact others. The next is simply managing your own emotions. This simply means that you must be able to self-regulate. You must be able to identify, again, your emotions and control them and redirect them. Okay? Also, you want to be able to motivate yourself. That means that there is something within you, there's some passion, something that you're passionate about internally, intrinsically, that motivates you. It's not something that is external that is motivating you, such as money or status. It may be that you understand what's important to you in life. It may be continuous learning. It may be being involved in a project that means something to you, a lot to you. And it may mean that you are a major contributor to that project. Also, recognizing and understanding other people's emotions. That means that you are empathetic and you are able to identify emotions in other people. The next is managing relationships and managing the emotions of others. This basically means that you understand or you are adept at managing relationships, that you know how to network very well, and that you're able to find common ground and build rapport. Now, let's talk about the differences in high emotional intelligence behaviors and low emotional intelligence behaviors. We need to know how to identify each. When a person displays high emotional intelligence, they display low insecurity and high openness. They act assertively. Basically, they are confident. They are transparent. A person who displays low emotional intelligence is triggered emotionally, and their thinking goes down, and they behave in ways that are passive, passive-aggressive, or they act aggressively. Additional behaviors of low intelligence is scapegoating, blaming, bullying, gossiping. Additional examples of high emotional intelligence is self-awareness, inclusiveness. Again, you're transparent. You take responsibility for your own actions. So when we talk about being collegial, we have to remember that it is difficult to be other-focused, which is what being collegial is. Remember, to be collegial means that you're being cooperative. It's difficult to be collegial when your brain perceives a threat from another person or from an environment. So we understand that if we are to be collegial, we have to be able to control our emotions that interfere with our decision-making process. Here are some steps that we can take toward being collegial. You can seek to understand the other party. That's something that we mentioned earlier, being open to hearing another person's perspective. And you can expect that you won't always be understood. That's fine. But you at least want to be heard and give the other person the opportunity also to be heard. You also want to be able to know your triggers, know your early warning signs. Some of you probably already know what they are because we feel those early warning signs in our body first. For me, my heart rate increases. For someone else, they may sweat on the top of their head. And if you're a bald male, that's easy to see. And so some other people may clench their teeth. Some people may smile to keep from doing something else. I don't know, okay? So, but you'll know what your triggers are because you'll feel it first in your body. Additional steps toward collegial and civil communication. You want to make sure that you are self-aware. Observe your own process. What are you doing? Are you bossy? Are you being accusatory? Is your voice level volume rising? Okay, so be aware and mindful of your own process. You also want to watch how others perceive you. Okay, watch their reactions to you. That can be a clue on your path to self-awareness. You also want to take a break. It's okay to disengage. That's also something that I do. You can disengage and give yourself an opportunity to regroup. And once you've regained your composure, you can re-engage when you're not emotionally triggered. And then finally, if necessary, you can seek help from a third party. Bring someone else into the conversation. Maybe cooler heads can prevail. Okay? Now, let's take a look at some difficult personalities. The first, we have a number of difficult personalities that we can take a look at. We're finished.